Today we are going to look at the brand new MSS ride management system for the E90, E92 and E93 M3. So let's take a look in the box and see what you get. You get some warranty information in here, so you can use this to register your kit and activate your warranty. The kit is made up of front and rear spring assembly, so I'll just go through those. The front spring is called the front ride controller, and that is used in combination with the front ride adjuster. So this allows you to run the kit at stock ride height or up to 30mm lowering, and it also comes with a PU seat so it can sit correctly on the damper. The rear of the kit is made up of 3 separate components, so I'll just go through those. This orange spring is called the rear ride controller, and it is made up of 1 spring rate. This is used in combination with the rear ride adjuster, and again that allows you to run the car at stock ride height or also at minus 30mm, and that is used in combination with the rear ride enhancer. And this black spring is actually made up of 2 different spring rates, and it's what gives MSS advantage over its competitors. So when these are put together, you've essentially got 3 separate spring rates on the back, which allows the kit to perform over and above anything else in the marketplace. So we have the front and rear MSS ride management system assemblies in front of us. These fit onto the stock dampers without any modification, so it's completely reversible. And they also allow you to retain your EDC if you have that on your car. The last thing you get in the box is this MSS C-spanner, which allows you to adjust the ride height from the ride adjusters. I hope you've enjoyed this brief overview of what you get in the box on this kit. If you're interested in see how this kit is fitted, I'm going to hand you over to my technician Aston, who's going to fit this kit on the car behind us.
So we've already got the car on the ramp and the wheels are off, so let's move on to the front suspension. If we take a look at the front suspension, I'll give you a run through of how to remove this standard shock and fit the MSS kit. So while the car's up in the air, the first thing I'll do is remove this nut for the drop link, and I'll also remove the lines and the sensors from the back of the strut. Once I've done that, I can lower the car down to the floor and place a jack underneath the hub to support it. Then I'll move into the engine bay and I'll disconnect the center nut for the damper, which allows the damper to move away from the top mount, leaving the top mount in place. Once I've done that, I can release the tension from the jack and pull the shock out from the wheel arch, which allows me to pull the spring off. So because this spring is quite long, you do have to be careful when removing it that you don't catch it on the wing. So if you bring it down and just pull down on the spring as you're pulling it, bring the damper assembly towards the back of the wing slightly and just pull down on the spring as you come under the wing, and you won't catch it. Once you've got it to that position, you can remove the spring and replace it with the MSS kit. Once the spring is off of the damper, you can remove the standard OE rubber plate and replace it with the MSS PU seat. Now the larger part of this PU seat will sit in the gap that you've got at the back of the shock here. So you just place it over the top and align it with the gap at the back. Next is your adjuster. Then your spring. And then reusing the OE bump stop rubber and the metal plate at the top. Now obviously the MSS spring is significantly smaller than the standard one, so it'll be a lot easier to get back in under the wing. hold it in place underneath the top mount and place your jack back underneath. Slowly jack it back up, ensuring that the damper rod goes into the top mount. So once you've got it into position like that, before you jack the hub up and put the spring under tension, just make sure that the rubber seat and the adjuster are all sat correctly and that the spring is going to align with the top mount as it should. And you can slowly jack it up until the spring seats. Then jack it up completely so that the spring is under tension, and then put the nut back on the top. So nip up the centre nut, and then once the car is back down on the ground with the wheels on, you can torque the centre nut up to 64 Newton meters. With the centre nut torqued up, you can plug back in the EDC sensor if you've got EDC and clip that back into place. So bring the car back up in the air and just have a quick look to make sure that you're happy with how the spring's seated and that it's all okay. Once you've checked that, we can put the drop link back in, refit the nut, and then tighten that nut up to 58 Newton meters. Once I've done that, I can clip the lines and the sensors back in. So as you know, the beauty of the MSS kit is that it is adjustable using this adjuster here. If you haven't already set the height that you require like we have, which has been set to the lowest point, you can adjust it now using the C-spanner. What you do is fit it to the adjuster and rotate the adjuster to make the adjustments. Now with the front kit finished, we'll move on to the rear. Once the entire car is done, it's back down on the ground. Remember to check that top nut and torque it up and replace the EDC sensor. On the rear suspension, everything that we need to undo is underneath the car, so there's no need to go into the boot, just for the spring. So the first thing you do is to place your transmission jack or jack, depending on what you're using, underneath the lower arm to place the spring under tension. Then you remove the bolt here from the bottom of the damper and the bolt here from the outer part of the lower arm that connects it to the hub. Love it. Now with both bolts removed, we can lower the jack, releasing the tension from the spring. Then we can pull the arm down slightly and take the spring out. Now on the passenger side, on a UK car, you've got a headlight level sensor that clips into the lower arm, so remember to disconnect that before you lower the lower arm, otherwise you could potentially break it. So with the standard spring removed, we can transfer over the parts that we need to reuse with the MSS kit, which is the top rubber and the bottom rubber as well. Now, although the front spring can be adjusted on the car, the rear spring sits under quite a lot of tension, so it is easier to adjust with the spring off of the car before you fit it. So I'm going to do that now. To make the adjustment on the rear, you spin the adjuster this way to open the gap. Now, because we've gone at the lowest point on the front, we're going to aim for around a 15mm gap on the rear here, so that the car sits nice and even front and rear. Too far. So now that's at 15mm, I can put the stack back together and fit it back to the car. So place the bottom rubber in first, the black spring and adjuster on top. And then the orange spring and the standard top rubber after that. Pull down the lower arm. Place your jack back underneath the lower arm. And raise it up. As you're jacking it up, just make sure that this part of the hub is going inside the lower arm correctly and it's not twisting on this bush. Damper bolt back through. Line the hub up with the lower arm. Place the hub bolt back through. It can be a little bit tricky sometimes getting the bush lined up with the hole, so you may find it easier to use a lever bar just inside here and angle it in and out to get the bolt to go through. So with both bolts in, we can now tighten them up. When you tighten up this outer bolt, you will need to place the jack stand under the end of the hub here and put the hub under tension so that you don't twist the bush when you're tightening up the bolt. So once we've got it under tension, we can then torque up these two bolts. The bolt for the bottom of the damper torques to 100 Newton meters, and the bolt from the control arm to the hub is 165. So with these bolts now tight, I can release the tension on the jack and remove it. Then I can get the wheels back on the car, bring it down on the floor, and remember to tighten those front top nuts at 64 Newton meters. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope this video has been helpful for you when it comes to fitting the MSS kit to the E9x platform.
Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you liked the video, please give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, please remember to subscribe to the channel and turn your notifications on. If you want to join the conversation, please drop us a comment below and we will do our best to respond to you. And if you're running out of things to watch, why don't you watch one of these two?